Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Crystal, what's on the show today?
Well, it's a big day today, debate night tonight. Who will win? Who will lose? Who's going to jump up in the polls? Will Warren and Biden go after each other? We've got all the answers for you. Of course, we've also got Brianna Joy Gray, National Press Secretary for the Sanders campaign, on to preview their debate strategy. It's going to be a great show, I think, Saagar.
I think so, too.
All that today on Rising. All right, Saagar, what are you looking at?
Well, the press corps, the media, the online political class, including Crystal and me, are just too young and stupid to credit Joe Biden's resilience in this race, according to Joe Biden's allies. The team impressively convinced Politico to write a sob story about their predicament, saying the narrative should be, after all the hits he's taken in the press, he remains atop the Democratic field. Biden's team also told Politico that the left-wing political press corps is too woke and young to understand his appeal to large swaths of voters, and that they're generally more attuned to what will be a scandal online. I actually agree with him in a lot of ways, but it's an extraordinarily lazy argument to counter a few so-called woke scandals on Twitter from the much broader underlying critique that he is running to lead a nation that has long passed him by. The problem is not what the idiotic press corps is understanding about Biden or the history of politics. It's what Biden and his team don't. That their theory of politics is fundamentally broken, that a return to their era would be an utter disaster, and that the neoliberal consensus was broken irrevocably in 2016. This is an ideological, not a political debate. It's a very important one. I spend a lot of my time scrutinizing him because I actually think there's a greater than 50% chance he becomes a Democratic nominee, and that means by definition, he has at least a non-zero chance of becoming the next president of the United States. Many other Biden critics and I absolutely understand why older, more centrist Democrats would want a President Biden. They're scared of some of the moves that Biden has made. He was VP to a very popular living president, and a general return to normalcy is what animates most Democrats who just are sick of Trump and they want somebody else. He's a safe bet. And when the stakes are this high in their minds, they think it's one worth taking. Voting for Biden in this primary is a hyper-rational choice that is actually extremely simple to understand. Being in touch with your voters is a really important thing for a political party. I want to stress that. The GOP, they got it really wrong for decades by doubling down on free trade, comprehensive immigration reform, and lower taxes. But being a great leader requires you not just to deliver for the political coalition that happens to give you the primary nod, but it also requires leading the nation that you are privileged to steward. The problem with Biden's campaign and much of his public rhetoric is he has not spent a lot of time reflecting on what went wrong in the Obama administration and during his long career in the United States Senate. His middle-of-the-road centrism, his double down on the European alliance, is pretty much exactly what we all got under Obama. Do we really trust Joe Biden to deal with the emerging issues on technology, China, trade, and national security when he was the architect of the failed policies that were already in place? Don't ever forget what Bob Gates said about Joe Biden. He's been wrong about everything for 40 years. Biden's opponents, both in the Democratic race and in the Republican Party, they need to rise to the challenge of his allies here and instead focus on the underlying reasons for why exactly he's been wrong for so long. And Crystal, I think that first of all, it's funny that Biden and his allies are complaining about press coverage. They sound a lot like the Obama administration saying, oh, these people are only 27 years old and they don't understand anything. Maybe they understand actually quite a bit, right? Maybe it's that younger generations look at somebody who acts this way and who speaks this way and who is advocating for the same old policies, and they say, why the hell would we want to do that again?
I think it is incredibly legitimate to look at his long career and the decisions he's made and all the numerous things that he's been wrong on and continues to be wrong on to this day. I also think it's incredibly legitimate to look at, what gets labeled as his gas, which, as we've discussed here, I really don't think is the right term.
Yeah.
It's this whole question around electability revolves around whether he is really up to the task of taking on Trump. So no, is it any one of these misstatements or misunderstandings or slip-ups or inability to articulate himself? No, but you look at the sum total and you say, is this the guy to take on Trump? In another very important respect, though, and we've talked about this too, Biden has gotten a pass in a lot of ways on some of the questions around his corrupt dealings, whether Hunter benefited from his positioning overseas. And look, those are things that I can promise you the Republicans are going to raise in a potential general election, and they need to be fully vetted and laid down at this point.
The problem for the press corps is that they will focus too much on these gaffes, and they'll go to his face and be like, oh, is your gaffes a problem? They should be asking about Hunter. They should be asking about his brother. They should be asking, have you changed your policy on TPP? Have you changed your policy on free trade? Do you stand by the way that you conducted yourself on Iraq? Where are these types of questions? Absolutely nothing. So if anything, the press corps is doing him a great favor by focusing on frivolous issues.
Yeah, I think that's right.